What is Superjuice, you ask? Well, Superjuice is a shelf-stable lime juice created by a bartender named Nickle Morris, who is the owner of Expo in Louisville, Kentucky. If you guys have been around the bar industry at all, or been paying attention to the craft cocktail industry at all for the last, 5 or so years, then you'll know that sustainability is a huge issue, and it's an issue that a lot of enterprising bartenders have taken upon themselves to try and solve, which is a really good thing. Because if bars are anything, they are an absolutely wasteful, very, very wasteful. So these enterprising bartenders have tried a lot of different sustainability techniques, everything from making citrus stock out of spent citrus husks, or making fruit leather and gummies out of purees, just anything that they can use the waste of the bar for to kind of create a circular, I was gonna say a circular cycle, but I really should just say to create a cycle, because a cycle is circular. But the number one biggest waste behind a bar is citrus juice. Lemon and lime juice. It's because not only do you have the husks that are spent after you juice them, but also lemon and lime oxidize pretty rapidly. And actually lime juice oxidizes even more rapidly than lemon juice. So at the beginning of the night, you don't know how busy you're gonna be. And so you're going to juice a little bit extra to make sure you can get through the night without having to have a bar back, go and juice in the middle of a shift that gets really busy. And that is how a lot of citrus juice is wasted. Now, at the very beginning of the cocktail renaissance, one of the major things to upgrade cocktails away from the stuff that we were drinking in the 80s and the early 90s was fresh juice. And according to Nickle Morris, providing fresh juice is not the gold standard. It's actually the bare minimum that you can offer in a bar. So he created this stuff called Superjuice to solve the problem of oxidizing juice. So we're gonna be doing it with limes today, because you can do it with anything, lemons, oranges, grapefruits, but limes oxidize really rapidly. Like the minute you juice them, they begin to oxidize. Within 5 minutes, you can already start tasting off flavors. So I thought that it would be good to do this test based on limes, because everything else is a little bit more stable than limes. So we're gonna do a couple of things. The first thing we're gonna do is figure out whether or not this is better than lime juice, because that's one of the big selling points of Superjuice. We're going to put it into a daiquiri and we're gonna taste it against fresh lime juice in this video, and then we're gonna see how we like it. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it sit for a week and we're gonna taste it, and then we're gonna let it sit for a month and we're gonna taste it, and we're gonna taste it against the fresh and see if it stands up. So you're not gonna need very much stuff to do this. You're going to need a container, 44 grams of citric acid here, and you're gonna need 8 grams of malic acid, and then you're gonna need 8 limes. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Pretty simple. So there's a couple of things that you need to know about this. First of all, this technology is not really new. It is based on the idea of sherbet. Do you remember what sherbet is, Marius? It is an old school punch base. So when you're making punch, you make an oleo saccharum. You take the peels, you throw them into a bowl, you cover them in sugar, you muddle it a little, you let that sugar eat up all the oils, and then you have your, slurry. And then what you do is you add the juice into the punch. And when you add that juice into the oleo saccharum, and then you strain the peels out, after the sugar has dissolved, you have what's called sherbet. And that's basically what this is based on. So this technology is actually 19th century technology. The other thing is that you want to use a peeler. You don't want to use a zester. According to Nickle Morris, it just gets very hard to blend up, because we're going to be blending these peels, and so it's very hard to blend those peels up because they're so small when you zest them that they actually stay kind of intact. And we want to make sure that we blend these up really good. It's a little bit difficult to separate the peel from a lime without getting some pith. You want to be very light on the peel. You don't want to dig into the fruit too much, because you're going to get a lot of that white pith, and that white pith is going to give you a bunch of bitterness. That's actually the reason why you don't see a lot of old school punch recipes with lime, because the prevailing idea back in the day was that limes provided too much pith when you peeled them, and so it was too bitter, and so oleo saccharums should only be made out of lemons. Just a little history for you. All right, so let's get into this recipe. You're gonna need a pretty big container, because we're gonna be adding a lot of water into it. And we're just gonna peel these. You want your peel to look like this. You're gonna get a little pith, and we are gonna be reserving the fruit, because we will be using the juice from these fruits. So put them aside. Okay, so we have our peels here, and when I saw this thing created initially, the whole point of this is that you can start it in the beginning of your shift and then do all your stuff. By the time you've done all of your opening prep work, this stuff will be ready to make, and so you can make it just before your shift. So 44 grams of citric acid, 8 grams of malic acid, and that's actually about the same ratio of a lime, because a lime pretty much contains about 4% citric acid, 2% malic acid. So the ratio here is just about that. If you want to scale this up, that's the basic ratio. Okay, I'm going to take my muddler and I'm just going to muddle this a little bit. Just get it started. And stir it and coat the peels. You want to make sure that the peels are really nicely coated in the acids. So apparently, Marius, limes are made up of 3 different acids: citric acid, malic acid, and succinic acid. And it's the succinic acid inside the limes that create the oxidizing problem. So in this recipe, we've completely gotten rid of that particular acid in the initial stages of it. Now we're going to be adding lime juice in, so there's going to be a little bit of that, but I'm assuming that there's so much citric acid and malic acid that it's preserved enough to keep it good. So this is nicely done. So we're going to let this sit for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're going to shoot the rest of our videos for the day, and we'll come back to this and finish it up and see how it goes. So we have here the oleo citrate that we made. I think oleo citrate is a term that the creator of this coined, but it's basically like oleosaccharum, but instead of using sugar, he used acids, and so it would be citrate, I guess. That makes sense. So as you can see here, the acids have kind of taken a lot of the color out of the peel and sort of aged it almost a little bit. It's very interesting. But that's okay. That's completely fine. So we have our oleo citrate. We're going to have to juice these limes as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 liter of water to our oleo citrate. I think that's about it, actually. We're going to put the lime juice into the water. Give it the old stirry poo. So we're just going to line this thing with a nut milk bag or, you know, comparable device to get all of those little peels out. All right, super juice. All right, let's make cocktails. So this one's got the super juice and this one is regular juice. Which one should I try first? Like regular juice as the control?
Yes.
All right, got my lab coat on. It's official now.
Doing it scientifically this time.
All right, regular. Pretty good, pretty tart, nice and balanced. We used Don Q silver rum, so try to get like as neutral rum as we can. All right, let's try this one. Whoa, holy moly. It's way more flavorful. I mean, by a long stretch. Like, inarguably.
Like, is it a good thing or it tastes like?
Yeah, no, it's nice and balanced. It's got the same tartness as lime juice. It's not any more tart. So I was thinking to myself when we started this that the super juice was going to be better because it contains the actual peel and oil of the peel inside itself, right? So it's going to be really, really, really robust in flavor. But the way that we squeeze citrus in our citrus squeezer squeezes the whole fruit so you get the oil in the juice as well. So I thought, well, it could be a tie. But this has got the juice, it's acid adjusted, and it has the peel and oil. I think the addition of the peel itself, like the little tiny bits of blended peel that are in there for sure, the ones that are so tiny that made it through that nut milk bag, I think that's making all the difference. They're very close. They're very, very, very close. It's been a week and the super juice has been in the fridge. I will say that it separated a little bit in the fridge over the week, but I just gave it a shake. We're trying it in these 2 cocktails again. We're gonna see how shelf stable this stuff really is. So this is the regular, just fresh lime juice, and this is the super juice. Tastes like a daiquiri. I don't think I've detected any change in it at all. Like it's just as good as it was the day we made it, truthfully. I don't taste any off flavors. It tastes freaking good. It might be a little, it might have a twinge more bitterness. Let's fast forward a month. It's been a month. I have been tasting through this every week, and I will say that it has gotten a little bit paler than it was. It's not as vibrant green as it started. When we first blended it up, it was really brown, and then that turned into this nice vibrant green, and now it's just very pale. Also, after 2 weeks, I started tasting a little bit more of that metallic flavor. It started to get off flavors at 2 weeks. At the 3-week mark, the off flavors were even more. It was a lot more bitter. It had sort of that metallic taste to it. We're just shy of a month. This is super juice, and this is regular juice. Yep, tastes like a daiquiri. Not as good as it was. The thing is that it's not like terrible, 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 and it starts very promising on your palate, but then it just starts to devolve into that sort of metallic taste. It's not as vibrant as it was. I don't think that we can say that this is like a fully shelf-stable thing, and I was really hopeful that it would be that. I do think, though, its current shelf stability, it would be a game changer for like carbonated cocktails in cans, because it still outstrips and outperforms like regular shelf-stable lime juice. It's the best shelf-stable lime juice I've ever tasted. But the takeaways here are that the yield is incredible on this. You gotta juice a lot of limes for 1 liter of juice. So to be able to make 1 liter of juice with a little bit of citric acid, a little bit of malic acid, and 5 limes, that's gonna save your bar program a ton of money. And if it lasts a week, then that's great, because there's no bar program that's going to hold on to lime juice for more than a week. And so the people that comment on this channel and ask me whether or not they can freeze lime juice to preserve it, which you can do to an extent, yes, this is gonna be great for them too. I don't see the downside. It's fantastic. Nickle Morris, good job. This is incredible. I don't know how to end this video other than just saying like, go make yourself some super juice. Now everybody on this channel is gonna be like, why haven't you just replaced super juice for every cocktail on the main channel?
Right.
We might have to consider doing that, because it is superior to fresh juice.